And most of those people, in talking to them, have come into school with much experience in film or camera work, and it's a little bit intimidating, to be honest. So when my partner and I sat down and watched the other ones, we had to turn it off because we were so afraid of what we were seeing, because it was great. Their work was awesome, and then we watched ours, and it was just so amateur. But yes, I love film and everything about it, but there's a lot more than just loving film that goes into filmmaking, and I'm learning that right now.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I don't think, you could live 100 years in the filmmaking world, and I don't think you could ever learn everything. You're still, it's like a step of life. You're still going and learning that as you live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hope Speaks on Shoot of Hope channel. Tonight we're joined by a very special guest, Kevin Walker. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Donnie.
Yeah, no problem. And of course, this is probably one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far. But it's not film. Film, to me, is like one of the more special things. You know what I'm saying? Because, of course, I'm a filmmaker, so... And obviously, you like film as well, so let's get to talking. Tell us a little bit about yourself first.
So I am a sophomore currently here at Penn State. I just moved out here this semester. I actually had to change campuses early from Hazleton because of my major. Because I'm film and video, I needed to take 2 comm classes that were not offered at Hazleton. And if I were to stay at Hazleton, I would have had to commute back and forth between like Hazleton and Wilkes-Barre, and that would not have been fun. So it was actually easier to come out here to University Park. And now I'm in an intro to filmmaking class and history of cinema class, and they're both very, very interesting. I'm glad that I'm out here for them and to experience them and not have to commute back and forth or take an online version of it. And when I was much younger, I grew up loving film. It was the only thing I seemed to be passionate about, interested in, and everything just revolved around film. I remember from being in like elementary school, there used to be a video store in our town of Berwick on the corner of Front Street. It was called Powerhouse Video, and they used to have $1.99 Tuesdays, like $1.99 new release Tuesdays, and my mom would take me there every week to get a new movie that came out. And I just grew up renting movies, going to the movies, and no matter how annoying I was, my parents always ended up taking me, thankfully. I grew up loving it, and now I get to go to school for it. I mean, it's awesome. I feel like I'm right where I should be. The only thing is, I'm not too experienced in filmmaking. Yes, I love film and everything about it, but there's a lot more than just loving film that goes into filmmaking, and I'm learning that right now.
Well, yeah, that's true. And I don't think, you could live 100 years in the filmmaking world, and I don't think you could ever learn everything. You're still, it's like a step of life. You're still going and learning that as you live. But I'm going to test your memory here real quick, because you mentioned about the old the Berwick movie store.
Yeah.
So what was the first movie you remember seeing?
Oh my gosh. That's a good question.
If you can't recall that one, how about the first movie that actually like affected you? How about that?
Oh, affected me? Okay.
If you can't remember the first movie you seen, because I don't know if I could remember the first movie I ever saw.
Yeah. I definitely can't remember the first one that I saw. I knew that my mom would collect it when I was younger, like the old Disney VHS tapes, and I used to watch them over and over again, so most likely one of them. But the first movie that probably affected me that I can remember was back in like 2009. It actually became my favorite movie, The Hangover.
Okay.
And I was born in 2000. I was 9 at the time. I remember when that first came out, and I heard just so much about it, and my mom had watched it, and I knew that she absolutely did not want me to see it, and I knew that it was rated R, so I knew that I wasn't allowed to watch it. And I ended up being at my cabin with my dad and his friends, and it slipped through the cracks, but I got to watch it there, and that was like the first time seeing something I shouldn't have. And it always stuck with me, and I thought it was hilarious at the time. It introduced me to the world of like R-rated movies, and from there, my parents kind of became pretty lenient with what I was able to watch. I probably watched a lot of things I shouldn't have, but that opened the world to like Step Brothers, Superbad. Like those are all my favorites going through middle school and high school. And but in a way, I'm glad that I got to experience those early because I thought that they taught me a little bit, and I matured a little bit faster knowing some of those things going through middle school and high school. It seemed like others didn't. But yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to that. But the first one that definitely affected me, I'd say, is The Hangover.
Gotcha. I was definitely one of those other people that really weren't like matured throughout middle school and high school because, you at least you have a valid reason. I mean, your parents aren't letting you watch The Hangover. I can't even watch SpongeBob. My goodness.
No, I definitely watched a fair share of SpongeBob.
Yeah, so I mean, I had to get into it very late, but you know what? Still, I mean, it stands the test of time. So,
yeah.
Going back to film school now, what is something that you learned so far this semester that maybe you didn't expect to right off the bat?
Yeah, so we dove right into working with cameras. The first one that I'm getting to work with now is the Panasonic DVX200. I have no experience in cameras whatsoever. The only thing I've ever shot on was my phone, or I have a GoPro Hero 3, I think it's, or that's what version it is. And so getting to experience an actual film camera and working with one has been pretty crazy. We had a workshop on it, and we've had worksheets that we've had to do on it. I've watched several videos on it, and I actually just turned in a film project the other day, and it wasn't, I wouldn't consider it a film project, but I was paired with a partner, and we had to gather like 15 different shots, like extreme wide shot, close-ups, bird's eye view, just shots like that. And when we submitted ours, we were able to see the other people's in the class that submitted theirs, and most of those people, in talking to them, have come into school with much experience in film or camera work, and it's a little bit intimidating, to be honest. So when my partner and I sat down and watched the other ones, we had to turn it off because we were so afraid of what we were seeing, because it was great. Their work was awesome, and then we watched ours, and it was just so amateur. But it was just a learning experience, and getting to see what we have to work on, and it gave me a lot of questions to ask my teacher. So it's gonna all benefits and all good things. But yeah, like I said, the Panasonic DVX200, I've just been getting more hands-on with that, watching a lot of videos on that, and getting to see how that all works. We also are learning how to use tripods, boom mics, just microphones on the camera themselves. The wires that are all, I can't even name them. There's a lot that has gone into just the last 3 weeks of school, and there's so much I still have to catch up on and study and review. And actually today we were filming our first scene. There was only like 12 of us in the class, so our teacher split the class down the middle, and there was 6 and 6 of us. And she gave us a script of a short film, and we chose a scene from that. And me and another friend chose to be the actors. Well, each other person, one was like the director, one was the director of photography, or one was in charge of audio, just all those different things. And I never acted before, but I don't know if I'm meant for it. Getting to hear myself and kind of see myself do that, I don't know. That was always a dream of mine too, was to act, and I don't know, I might be a better face behind the camera.
Isn't it always weird looking at yourself and listening to how you actually sound on camera? Man,
oh my gosh, yeah. Even when I hear myself on the phone, it's so much different.
I can't get over that yet to this day, and I've done like 3 of my own short films, and I think every time I have to appear in my own short film, I think it ruins it. I think the quality goes down.
I do. Like I texted you before. I sat down over a course of several days, and I watched your whole Shield of Hope channel and the Real Deal channel, and getting to watch all those videos, it was really, really cool, and it definitely looks like you spent a lot of time on those videos. And
well, thank you.
Short films, I mean, and I really enjoyed all of them.
You know how you were just talking about how you're sitting down in the class and like you're looking at your work compared to everybody else's?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you what, when you look back from that project on, like, say, because like we're shooting a new short film called, actually a feature film called North Strand here. And
I saw the trailer for that.
we'll have to get you on set one of these days too. So whenever
I
you're
love that.
whenever you're off school, we'll have to do that. Um,
Okay.
but looking at that and looking at Fight for Me and looking at agendas, I mean, my goodness, going back to my first films at Du Bois Business College, my goodness, I like cringe at them. So you're gonna have to live with that the rest of your life too. Like just looking back at past projects until you hit that point where you're like, man, this is like I'm getting somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, I feel like it's just one of those things where you get to see that growth over time, and where you came from, and even the best people or best directors and best writers and everybody out there seem to have come from very amateur starts, and I've watched many interviews of many famous directors and writers, and they all talk about how bad their old work was and where they started from. So
Yep.
it's just a process that everyone goes through.
And people learn from other people because you know what?
Yeah,
Those,
yeah.
I mean, just watching somebody else's student, other working class, you're going to learn a lot more about what they thought of the shot. Because it's like, and I don't know if you got into this yet with filmmaking 101, but like how like some of the shots are meant to be like psychological. Have you guys started that yet?
Yeah, like what each one means, and like the different things you could do with the movement of camera. Is that what you're talking about? Because
Yeah.
we
There,
discussed.
there's a specific one, and maybe you didn't get to this one yet, but there's like when you're having two people and you're doing like the straight on like conversations where they're talking right almost into the camera, somebody's talking to them. How like if you tilt the camera down looking up, it makes the person more
Oh,
powerful
yeah.
than if you're
Yes.
looking down. So I mean psychologically, and that's a lot of things that people don't like average moviegoers don't see, but you'll start seeing that the
Yeah.
more you start going to films.
No, yeah. We actually were just talking about that this past week. Now that you mention it, yep.
Have you started screenwriting yourself yet?
Yes, actually, that's a funny question. When I was 13, I began my first screenplay, and since then, I'll say back then, I absolutely had no experience with screenwriting either. But the only thing that I seemed to be good at in school was writing and English. And even that was a stretch. I wasn't really good at anything in particular, but that was just the thing that I enjoyed doing the most. So, beginning to write, I had this really, what I thought was a really great idea, and I still do. It's something that I've been working on since I was 13, and I just keep adding and adding to it. The actual screenplay itself has about 30 pages written so far, and I tell myself every year, I'm going to get it done this year, I'm going to get it done this year. It just keeps getting pushed off with school or work or, just all the other factors of life. And it honestly ticks me off. I need to sit down and focus more on it. And that's not just the only one. I have many files on my computer or on my flash drive of idea after idea. I even have a list of just miscellaneous ideas, whether they be lines of dialogue, scene ideas, just anything. As soon as an idea pops into my head, I usually write it down in my phone notes, and then when I'm by my computer at night, I put it on my computer and save it, and then delete it off my phone. And I always tell everyone that I'm around, be careful what you say, because, if I hear a joke or something that I like, or something that happens to me that's funny, or just an idea that comes to me, I immediately write it down before I forget it. And it's gotten into a habit over the course of the last 7 years, but it's also something that, helps me stay organized. And each idea or each thing I hear someone say, it's something that I can use somewhere along the way, even if it's not what I'm working on right now. So my goal for screenwriting, at least this year, is to get that first one that I started in 2013 done. The only good thing that I could say about it, and the couple friends that I tell, I've been more open about it in the last couple years. I kept it a secret from many, and something I didn't even really tell my parents. But the only good thing that I can say is that writing it now, it would not be what it was, or what it would be now, than what it would have been, 7 years ago. It's much more developed. I'd say much more mature, realistic. Makes more sense. like I have the very first page that I wrote back in 2013, and to me it seems like that was just yesterday. But when I count up the years, it's like, oh my gosh, that was 7 years ago. And I read it sometimes, and I can't even believe what I wrote down. It's just so so bad. But I invested in. Have you ever heard of Final Draft 11? I think it's called.
Yes,
Like
yes, I've heard of that. A lot of people like to use that. I just typically like to use normal Word because I kind of do my scripts differently than the industry likes. But
yeah, no, I mean, and that's completely fine too. I bought this. It was called the Screenwriter's Bible, and I read it over the course of last year, my freshman year of high school, or not freshman year of high school, freshman year of college, and I highlighted it. Almost every page I had something written down on, and that's what got me to look into the Final Draft 11, because they said about how adamant, like big shots in Hollywood, or the script readers are in Hollywood, that if they get a script in their hands that isn't the right margins or the right font or anything like that, they just toss it to the side if it's not the correct way that most, or what the majority likes. So what I like about the Final Draft 11 is that it just, as you type, whether that be a name or a line of dialogue, a scene heading, interior, exterior, like it just formats it automatically for you onto the page. And I think that's really, really nice, because when I was writing my first draft, or several first drafts on Word, I was in my head 15 minutes maybe into the movie, and I already had 30 to 40 pages written, and I know each page accounts for about a minute of screen time, and I was like, this is not going to work. So it cut that kind of in half using that software and seeing, how things should actually be formatted. So I like that. I need much more experience with it. And yeah.
just wait till you have to write short films. Oh my goodness, I hate that, because okay, first of all, do you like the writing process, or is that like your least favorite?
No, that's actually, if I had the time of day, that's what I'd be most invested in. Just sitting there and getting to write. Or do you mean like writing the story, or just like formatting it?
No, like between writing, directing, and the final cut, like editing. Like, is that your favorite?
I don't know, because I don't have much experience with what I'm learning right now actually is Adobe Premiere, which I know you've told me about, and learning that. That's all new to me, but I'm learning it more and more every day, and trying to get better at it. So the only thing that I've ever done before was work through iMovie, which, I mean, in all fairness, a monkey could probably put something together on iMovie. But I always feel like this big shot editor when I work on it, and editing through that I love. I think that's a lot of fun. I've never actually directed anything, so editing I really do enjoy. It's a very excruciating process. I'd say you have to be very patient. You could mess up a lot, and it just takes a lot of time and attention to detail. But yeah, definitely writing too, especially when I get in the mood for it and like I have a good train of thought. I can't do it when I'm in public or around too many people. I need to be in like a quiet space or like a room by myself, just to focus and be able to keep my train of thought going. So yeah, I guess I'd say writing and editing, and I'd love to get some directing experience whenever the time comes.
Gotcha. Well, writing to me is my least favorite thing. I mean, I wish I had somebody had written me the script, and I could just go film and edit it. I love that.
Oh, okay. Well, right. That's good to keep in the back of my head. I could send you whatever I have.
Perfect. I'll make it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for some reason, like, just being behind the camera is a lot more entertaining to me, and like working with the cast and crew, I mean, there's nothing that beats that. Like screenwriting, don't get me wrong, there's people that make a living off screenwriting, and I have to write my own scripts right now. But I'll tell you what, like, as soon as, like, there's no bigger relief. I know there's a lot of people that are like, editing. Once the editing's done, that's a big relief. I was like, no, editing to me is fun. Because I could flip shots around, I could do whatever I want to do. Creative, I could be J.J. Abrams, here's a lens flare, there's a lens flare. But yeah, I mean, that's weird to me. That's my personal preference. And but yeah, I'm glad to see that, because you made the comment earlier about Penn State having Panasonic cameras. I love Panasonic cameras.
Yeah, well, like I said, the DVX 200, that's the only one I've gotten to know so far. I think that's pretty much. It seems like that's the gist of what we're going to use for this semester at least. I know, like, as we go into future semesters, we're gonna I think work with dollies and things like that and get more advanced with it. But just right now, it's the intro with that camera, the tripod, your basic boom mics and things like that.
Well, if you ever get a chance, look at the Panasonic G7s. They're really nice. G7s. And you know what I almost got the other day? I almost got one of those, did you see those 360 GoPros?
Oh, yeah. No, I that's another thing. I actually, this summer, I plan to buy one of the, if I have the money, I plan to buy the new GoPro. I would love to buy the new GoPro.
I almost caved at Best Buy the other day. I almost bought it. But that,
it's what, like, about 400, or is it more than that?
This one I looked at was like 700.
Oh my gosh.
But,
well, I saw they have a bunch of like add-ons and things that come with this one, like lighting, mics and things like that. I don't know, whatever I was looking at on the GoPro website, it just looks awesome. And I saw that they just released the like the $1 Million Challenge the other day, like the video. I don't know if you happen to see that, but it was just everybody that submitted GoPro footage from the new GoPro this year, submitted like the coolest shots, and then GoPro, the company, selected like the coolest ones to put into a montage mashup, and each person got like $17,000 or something. It was $1 million split amongst them. But
yeah, I don't know if I saw that one. I saw, and I don't know if it was prior to Super Bowl. I would imagine so. But when they shot that snowball fight commercial on like the iPhone or something like that, did you see that commercial?
Yeah. Is that wait? That's not the one. Oh, okay. No, I'm probably thinking about something else. I'm not sure if I saw the snowball one.
That was good. And then a few years ago, I think they shot an episode of Modern Family on an iPhone too. I think. So
really?
It really shows you how like far technology's come. That like between studio cameras and like just things we hold in our hands, the phones and the GoPros and stuff like that.
I know. I think it was director Steven Soderbergh made the movie Unsane 1 or 2 years ago. All shot through an iPhone 8, I think. I didn't get the chance to see the movie, but it looks like it's shot maybe like really grainy cameras. But yeah, it was all done through an iPhone.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
What do you know by chance? What films they're going to show you at Penn State for your whether it's intro courses or like beyond?
Yeah, so actually the first week of school, well, I could give you a background on the class. It's COM 150, like the history of cinema, or introductory to historic cinema, something like that. I don't know the exact name, but every week my classes are on Tuesday and Thursday, and Tuesday classes are around 3 hours because the first hour and a half is a lecture, and then the second hour and a half is a movie that is shown based on what we're learning that week, and then Thursday's just more of a discussion. And actually, the first week of school, a movie that I've had on my list to watch that I never got to watch yet was Slumdog Millionaire. That was the first one we watched, and I really, really enjoyed that movie. I started watching it when I was younger, and I just never got to finish it, so it was really cool to see that. Last week, we watched one of Harry Lloyd's short films. I can't think of the name of it. It's when he's climbing on the clock, very old black and white silent film. And I actually fell asleep during it. I feel really bad, but I watched it after class to catch up on it.
Is it a night class?
No, it's actually afternoon.
Okay.
But, I don't know what it was. I just fell asleep in the first like 10 minutes. I woke up. What the class is. I thought it would just be a smaller class because, there's probably not so many film majors here. But it's an intro class to, like I said, the cinema. So there's a ton of people. It's a mass lecture, like 400.
Oh, well, they're probably getting that for just general credits then, right?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's I guess it's a gen ed, but it's a requirement for me to have done by the end of my sophomore year, and they didn't offer that at Hazleton, so that's just one of the reasons why I'm out here. But it's at the State Theater here on College Ave at Penn State here, and it's like it's just I'd say more old-fashioned theater, but just there's 400 to 500 seats, and they're all filled up with students in there. So I just woke up last week in the dark, and it was silent because it was a silent film, and I was kind of shook. I was looking around, and I forgot where I was for a second. So yeah, but I watched that again, and it was good. And then this week, today, actually, we were talking about documentaries. And last week was talking about the era of the Nickelodeon era, and just silent films. And this week was documentaries. Today we watched. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it was a documentary called The Bridge, about the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and how it's one of it's where some of the, or I don't know how to say this, most suicides have happened.
Because they jump off, because they jump off the bridge. Yeah, I've never seen that documentary, but I have heard of that. Yes.
It was in 2006 that the film came out, and my roommate was talking to me and asked me, isn't there like a forest in Japan or something where a lot of that happens? And I've heard of that place too. So I don't actually know where the most suicides happen, but the Golden Gate Bridge is apparently one of them, if not where the most of them happen. But yeah, it was kind of strange to watch because it just seemed like such a mainstream film, and they were talking about suicide like it was nothing, and then it was quite interesting. They had two cameras set up on different parts of the bridge for the whole year of 2004, and over the course of the year, I believe 26 different people have jumped off and committed suicide, and they told some of those stories of them, some of their the family stories, and how some of the family actually or families were okay with it, and just wanted their kids to be out of pain, or related people, and then there was actually, they had someone that survived the jump, but kind of messed up his body, and how he was thankful for a second chance. So yeah, like every week it's going to be just focused on a different area of filmmaking or cinema, and how things are, how it was made, why it was made, things like that. And I know other films that we're going to watch, just one of the big ones, one of the big classics that I actually haven't gotten to see yet, is The Godfather. I know we're going to get to watch that in class, so it's nice to actually be able to check these movies off my list and not have to spend my own time, but class time getting to watch them.
Man, what type of you're going from suicide to the mafia. What type of
I know, it's quite the change up.
I mean, that's not even something for Hope Speaks channel. My goodness, that's just depressing. Hopefully you guys next time I get a psychologist on, I'll have to have them talk about the Golden Gate Bridge.
Definitely.
A few films. We watched Magnolia when I was in school. Magnolia. I don't know how you pronounce it.
I've heard of that.
Yes. Pulp Fiction, Night of the Living Dead. Well, Night of the Living Dead was obviously because the assistant director was like one that funded the program down at DBC. So like he was there in person, so that was pretty cool. John Russo was his name.
Okay.
And then
is that George Romero?
Romero's assistant, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Romero was the creator, but then the assistant, John Russo, worked with him in all these areas.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool to meet a high-end creator, because he still goes and he does all these because Du Bois is down in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh, of course, is where Night of the Living Dead was shot. So like he still comes back for like his little ceremonies and like stuff like that when they give a nod to it.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. Interstellar we had to watch, and of course we had to watch a lot of documentaries. So I was going to ask you about that, but since you answered those questions. What's the plan down the road after college, or even in like 10 years? Where do you see yourself?
Yeah, so I'm still trying to figure some stuff out as of right now. There might be a career route that's other than film, but it's temporary. I still have to figure a lot of things out, and I don't. It's not that I'm trying to hide it. I just haven't told too many people because I don't want it to be one of those things that I say it and then it doesn't end up being what happens, and then I have to backtrack my word. So as soon as it is set in place and it actually would happen, you'll be one of the first people to know, and all my friends will be too. But
you better make the announcement. You better make the announcement on this channel.
Yeah. Definitely. It doesn't have anything to do with film, but it could just benefit me getting, I guess, money-wise for a little while, it could benefit me into where I'd want to go next, which would be to moving to a city, either, Philly, maybe New York. Those two would be preferable just because they're closer to home. If I could stay that close, that'd be nice. If I'd have to move somewhere like Los Angeles, that'd be okay too. I've been there once before, and it is really, really nice. But I've heard California is pretty bad recently. I don't know if that's everywhere, but just from what I've heard on the news.
I'll tell you one city that you could consider, because I've considered it, because they actually gave me they were going to give me like a $10,000 scholarship to go there, but I didn't end up going there. Vancouver, Canada. Vancouver, Canada is a big film town. I should say city because it's a city, not a town, but it is big in the film.
Yeah.
I believe Deadpool was filmed up there. Some of the Avengers were filmed up there at times. I'm trying to think what other films, but yeah, there was a whole different, like, you go on Vancouver, I think it's Vancouver Film School is what it was, and you go on their website, and like it's like insane the amount of films that they've had filmed in Canada that are just like American-made films.
I would not mind going to Canada either. That's not even. I was there once, just right around Niagara Falls area there, and that's not even that far away from home either. So
well, Vancouver's West Coast Canada.
Oh, okay.
You're probably in about an hour from Seattle, so you could go see the best team in the NFL, the Seahawks.
Yeah, see, I know you're a Seahawks fan. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was actually gonna ask a little off topic, but what did you think of the Super Bowl?
I liked it because the 49ers didn't win.
Yeah.
49ers and Seattle are big rivals. I mean,
what's his name?
yes.
Sherman, right?
Honestly, and Connor tagged me in a few posts on Facebook, and I sent him a message because the best play of the Super Bowl was when they scored over Sherman to win the game. And I lost it where I was at, the party I was at. I just was like going wild.
I mean, that is awesome. To be honest, like I haven't been able to keep up with the NFL as much as I would like to over the last. I was into it in early high school, but then school came along and I ended up working like every Sunday when I was working in Berwick. Then I had a homework or something like that, so I just always fell behind on football and trying to keep up with it. I didn't even know Richard Sherman until the other night switched teams. I still thought he was on the Seahawks, to be honest. But I just thought it was cool to see the Kansas City Chief coach finally.
Oh yeah, Andy Reid. I mean, you can't. He's a great human being, a great head coach, and and me and Connor go back and forth all the time because he's an Eagles fan. But I told him, listen, Andy Reid winning the Super Bowl certified him in the Hall of Fame. I really didn't know if he got in the Hall of Fame without that Super Bowl. So.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just. I heard he was coaching, or he's been coaching for 17 years, and he's been with Kansas City for quite a few now, 7 or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, they didn't win a Super Bowl in 50 years, or they haven't been to a Super Bowl in 50 years. I forget what it was, but
I think they haven't been and they haven't won, because I think the last time they went to Super Bowl 50 years ago was their first or their win. So I think they haven't been nor won. So either way.
Okay, and then just the fact that it was like the 100th the 50th Super Bowl, like 100 years of football they're celebrating, like. I just think that it would be so cool to win on, like, a 50th anniversary or 100th anniversary or something like that.
Well, talking about numbers, did you see, and I think this is a real thing, because I saw somebody tag me it on Facebook, and it was Andy Reid won his 222nd win, and it was February 2nd, 2020.
No.
That is a bunch of twos.
I did not see that. Yeah, that is insane. Oh, my gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's correct, but I'll have to go back and fact check that. But I mean, that's pretty, numbers. It's weird. Numbers in life is a weird thing.
Yeah, no. Did the Simpsons predict that?
That is a very good question. I don't know. They predict everything else. Why not?
Yeah, I know.
If a company called you today, whether it was Hallmark, Disney, yada yada yada, Universal, what movie out there would you love to make as a dream project?
Like a franchise film?
Whether it could be franchise, you get one movie to make. What are you making?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'd have too much pressure with a Marvel film. It would be awesome to work on a superhero film. I'm both a Marvel and a DC guy, so I just kind of loop those together. Even though I know most fans don't. I don't think I'd work on it. I don't think I'd be able to work on a superhero film or the pressure of a Star Wars film. I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan most recently, but I don't know all the lore like most others do. And I know many people say, oh, I'd choose to make it that way or that way. And that's one I hear a lot of people talk about. But to me, honestly, gosh, one of my so my top three favorite movies are the Hangover, The First Neighbors, and Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. I don't know if you've seen the last one, Baby Driver.
Yep.
But I know that I just thought that was such a fun action movie I knew I was gonna like it going in, but I didn't know how much I was gonna love it overall. And I love Ansel Elgort and all the other actors in it. And it just felt like an adrenaline rush from beginning to end, and the action didn't stop, and the attention to detail there. I was just watching an analysis video the other day on there's just like 156 shots within the first 6 minutes of the film, and 70 are in the car, 60 are out of the car. The stunts that were done, it's just insane, and how music plays a role within the film. Just if anybody's seen it, they probably know. I'm going off the track here a little bit, but there's been talks about a sequel since the first one's come out now. I've been afraid of that just because I love the first one so much, and every time they mention a sequel to something that I love, I get a little bit scared. But if I got to work on something, I guess it would definitely be that. And Sony and like Columbia House were like just my favorites growing up. I don't know what it was about them, but when the intro would come on of like for Columbia with the lady with the light statue or candle, whatever that is.
Yep.
I don't know. I just always liked that growing up, and Sony too. So getting to work with them on a project like that, especially if it was getting to work on something with Edgar Wright too, who's a director I really admire and like a lot of his projects. I choose that, and I think that would be really cool.
I mean, you can't go wrong with that choice. I think those are good choices to do. Is there a particular actor or actress you would cast for these films?
Oh gosh, definitely include. My favorite actor overall is has to be Seth Rogen. I don't know what role he could play in Baby Driver 2.
Play them all. He plays them all.
Yeah, he can. I definitely maybe try to find some kind of comedy cameo bit that he could fit into. I haven't seen him too many serious things. I know he did the Steve Jobs movie a couple years ago, and I think he's doing he's playing Walter Cronkite soon in a future film. So he can be serious too. But other actors I really like are Adam Sandler, Jonah Hill, Will Ferrell, all comedy guys really. But Adam Sandler can be serious. I just saw that in Uncut Gems. I'm not a huge fan of the film, but he can at least be serious. And Jonah Hill can be very serious too, and he's been nominated for Best Supporting Actor twice. So any of those guys, really, I'd try to get into one of my films if possible, but that'd be a huge price tag.
Hey, I think you can't go wrong with any of those lists. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time pulling Adam Sandler away from Netflix with the money he's getting, though.
Yeah. I just saw he signed a contract to, I think, make another 4 films for Netflix. I
believe so. Yeah. Now, is that? Is the Game of Thrones? I don't know if you follow Game of Thrones that much. Benioff and D.D. Weiss, are they still making Netflix films or being the content creator? Because they dropped out of like Disney Star Wars for it. I don't know.
Well, you're talking about Game of Thrones for Netflix?
I mean, they're not making Game of Thrones on Netflix, but the writers and stuff like that, I think they got signed on to be the creative or head of development for Netflix.
I did hear something about that. I don't know if they were doing anything spin-off related to Game of Thrones. I'm not sure. I don't follow Game of Thrones too much, but I did hear about that. I watched the first season years ago when everybody was hyping up like season 4 or 5, and I just after the first 10 episodes, I was like, I'm out. I cannot watch this. I had no interest in it whatsoever, and I thought it was pretty boring, to be honest. And then I heard that the final season was really bad, or most people didn't like it, so I was really glad I didn't waste my time with that.
Honestly, I didn't really mind the last season too much, but again, the last season was like really one of the only seasons I watched because my sister made me watch it. So that was an experience, Game of Thrones. I don't know. I mean, it's not my genre, but I mean, We gotta talk some Star Wars, man.
Oh yeah.
You know, I just can't have you on the show to talk film and not talk Star Wars.
I'm fine with that.
What order did you watch the Star Wars in first?
Okay, so I actually go back a bit with Star Wars, and I can't do this without going back to like where it began, or talk about it without going back to where it began. And I hope he doesn't mind me shouting him out, but one of my good friends now, Ezio Valeri. I don't know if you know him, but I graduated with him. I went to elementary school with him. And back in elementary school, he would talk about Star Wars all the time, and with some of our other friends, he would talk about it all the time. And I felt so bad all the time. I used to make fun of him for it. I did not like it. I because I simply did not understand it, and it was just always something that I couldn't get into as a kid, and it kind of made me upset and jealous in a way. And in later years in high school, I apologized to him. And I couldn't apologize enough because I felt I was kind of a butthole as a kid to him. So I feel really bad about that. But him and I are friends now. We still stay in touch, and he's got his own clothing company, so it's going really, really well. So I'm really happy for him. But fast forward a little bit into high school when The Force Awakens came out. That was the first one I actually sat down and watched all the way through. I was 15, sophomore year. I had seen Revenge of the Sith when I was younger, but and I kind of liked it. But then I tried watching some of the other ones, and I couldn't get into them as much. So yeah, when I was 15, when this was actually another cool experience as well. I begged my mom to take me and my brother to the IMAX movie theater up in Scranton, Dixon City.
Yep.
So I saw that Friday. Well, I guess not. Thursday night would have been opening night. I saw that Friday night, first weekend that Force Awakens came out. Packed theater. Just audience clapping and everything else like that, and getting to see it in IMAX 3D. And that was my first IMAX 3D movie. It was really, really cool, and my brother and I really, really liked it. So that was the first one that I saw, and then I didn't go back and watch all the other ones. I saw the other new ones in order first. So I then saw The Last Jedi, and I was one of the people that really, really liked that one. It doesn't seem like there are too many of us out there, but then I saw from there. Rogue One came before Last Jedi, so I saw Rogue One, then Last Jedi, then Solo, which that was and then after Solo, last winter break, my best friend Braden Regal, he started forcing me to watch the old ones because I had them, and he's like, never watched these. We're gonna watch them together. So most of them are, or at least like 12 hours worth of our winter break was watching all the old Star Wars. And once I started watching them, I felt obligated to finish them and watch, all of them. So I watched them 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. And yeah, I enjoyed them. I think that it's just different for someone to, and I have this perspective on it. The kids that grew up on it, like when they were young in elementary school, like, even though they were born after the old ones were made, they just have a different understanding and view of it. And then the people that watch the new ones now, before the older ones, even including the prequels, they seem to have a different view on it. And that's where I'm at. Like, I really, really enjoy the new ones, and like that's my Star Wars to me over more so the old ones. Like, watching the old ones after seeing the new ones, it's kind of, I don't know. I can't appreciate them as much as someone else that grew up on them. And I was like, having watched all of them up until The Rise of Skywalker, I was so hyped for The Rise of Skywalker, and so many people were trashing it and saying that it's gonna be so bad. And I was like, what? Force Awakens and The Last Jedi were awesome. I love both of them, so I thought it was just gonna be the same route. And JJ was back too, so I was really, really excited, and I was really, really let down. I don't know what it was, but I finally understood Star Wars, or at least most of Star Wars. I didn't know all the lore going into it, but I found myself checking my watch quite a bit, and I was with it was great because this last semester just ended. It was a very stressful semester, and I ended up doing good. So it was like the first day I was done. It was that Thursday that Star Wars came out that night. So we went with a group of 10 to 15 of us, and we were all hyped for it. And yeah, some of us were let down, some of us loved it, and I was just one of those people that was let down by it, sadly, and the end of it. So I'm really interested to see where they go. And another cool thing was I didn't expect to watch The Mandalorian at all. I'm not too much of a TV person. Like, there's shows on my list that I want to watch, but I just never have the time to dedicate to seasons after seasons. That's why I love sticking to movies, because, you know, it's a condensed amount of time, usually hour and a half to 2 hours, where I can just sit down, focus, and watch something. Or, you know, even if I have to watch it over a course of several days, it doesn't take as long as a TV show would, or as much dedication. So, you know, when all these Baby Yoda memes started coming out, and I heard all my friends talking about the show, I coincidentally, luckily, got the flu over winter break, which stunk. But
did you just say luckily?
Yeah, well, the only reason why I say luckily is because it gave me time that I wouldn't have had otherwise to watch The Mandalorian. So I binge watched my first show ever, because, like I said, I'm not a binge watcher. So I got to watch The Mandalorian, and I really enjoyed that too. And it's funny now because I'm another thing that I didn't expect. I'm an initiate in a fraternity here, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not your typical fraternity at all. It's actually a gender inclusive honor fraternity, and it's a bunch of cool guys and girls that are really, really nice and looking to do good for Penn State. And I'm hoping to be a part of that. But as an initiate group, we're like beta iotas or iotas, I think, or something. So we had to come up with a name that was B and I. So last night at our brother hours meeting, we came up with Baby Iota as our initiate group name. So I really like that. So
no, I like that too. I think
for me in the last couple of years.
No, I think that's a very creative name. But I think now we're gonna get into a friendly debate here, because it seems like we had the opposite. Because I'm one of those people, I didn't mind Rise of Skywalker, but I thought I didn't mind it because I thought the other two were complete trash though.
Yeah, that's completely fine. Like this one, like I could.
But it's
probably watch it again. But if I had to choose out of the new the new trilogy, I pick the other two. That's, you know, I'm not one of those people that's gonna fight. I'm not.
Oh, I know. That's why I said. That's why I said friendly debate, because I know I'm not gonna fight you either. But it's weird though, because again, going back to your point, because again, this is where a lot of people seem to like the new trilogy, is the people that grew up in the new trilogy, and a lot of people like. If I could go back and brainwash you, I would go back and have you watch 4, 5, and 6 first, and then the 1, 2, 3, and then the 7, 8, 9. But like,
no, and I feel like I'd have a different view than on the new ones.
I don't. To me, basically, the whole thing in a nutshell is how they. I thought they disrespected the character of Luke Skywalker, but obviously, I get that as you grow up, you change sometimes. I just didn't like that he changed that drastically to being like the hope in the galaxy, to like being like this old man hidden in the far stretch of the galaxy. I don't know. I mean, some people can probably do that as they go through life because of the hardships and trials, but they didn't give us a reason for him. Like, it was just weird. Like, he just wanted to kill his nephew. And spoiler alert, obviously, if somebody never saw Star Wars, but oh well.
It's been 3 years.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, to me, you got to show some more things. Like maybe a love interest died, or maybe like, you know, like more Jedi died under him. You know, just give me something else to work with, and maybe I'd understand that a little bit more.
Well, no, I remember, you know, just sitting there, and I knew who it was going to be at the end of watching The Force Awakens. I mean, I was like, who else could it possibly be? And that was before even seeing like the old ones, like I had said, and you know, watching that cliffhanger. I was so excited for The Last Jedi, and, you know, like I said, I did like The Last Jedi, but when it introduced it, or it picked up right where Force Awakens left off, and he threw the lightsaber off the cliff, I was like, oh, okay. I was not expecting that whatsoever. And just another funny thing that I like to mention, I feel like it'd be a really missed opportunity if I have a son and I don't name him Luke Skywalker.
That's true, because your last name goes with it. See.
Yeah. Did we say that my name's Skywalker?
It's interesting that you say that, because I'll go into a quick story. Because what I always said was I always wanted to name my future son Anakin, because I like the character of Anakin from the prequels. Because that's the Darth Vader thing. Just it's great. in my opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was gonna be Anakin, Sky, Shields. But you know what that initial is?
Wait, Anakin, you say Guy?
Sky.
Sky. Oh, AS.
And I can't do that to him.
Yeah.
I just can't. So I don't know what I'm doing.
I always grew up getting called, Skywalker or something from several teachers and stuff like that. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I like the name Luke, and that's not too bad of a name. I just have to convince my future wife to allow me to do that. So I don't know if I want to damage the kid that bad, but like I said, it'd be a missed opportunity.
Oh, it definitely would be. But yeah, thank you for joining me on this episode today. Hopefully you had fun talking, and I know we went off topic, but you know what? That's sometimes the best things to do. So.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I love talking to you and learning more about film, and you definitely have a lot of knowledge and expertise on it. So, anytime.
We'll get you on set for North Strand, because North Strand, we're going to be filming it for quite a few more months yet. And if we don't get any snow, we'll be filming it next year too.
Oh, all right, awesome. Yeah, well, I'll be home at some point in time over spring break and summer and whenever. So just let me know.
Sounds great, bud. Kevin Walker, everybody. Thank you, Kevin.